How's it going, everybody? This is the Figuring It Out Finance Podcast. I'm your host, Chris Rickenbaugh, and we got a great show for you today with another book review, the second book review. And I think if you're looking for motivation or actionable steps, this is going to be the book for you, no matter what stage you're in. If you're looking to start your own thing on the side, or if you're a student, looking to start your own business and you see something that somebody's struggling with and you want to solve those problems. So the book is $1 Million Weekend by Noah Kagan. And I read this book on the way to Columbia and on the way back from Columbia. So I was able to start and finish it in less than a week. And along with Brian Lubin's book, From Passive to Passionate, I'm able to use those two books and really kind of build out what I see for my business here with the Figuring It Out Finance podcast and the website. And so those two books together are awesome. And then $1 Million Weekend is a very, just actionable steps that you're able to start doing. And Noah Kagan, he really, really lays into just start. That's probably the main point of the book, is to just start doing something. Whether you have an idea, start asking somebody, would you buy this product? Would you use this? He refers in the book to one of his friends who's a rock climber, and then he had a hard time being able to look up and know and help guide the climber. So he invented these glasses to where he doesn't have to look up, but all he has to do is look into the glasses, and it's mirrors and reflecting up towards the climber. So being able to build that business, and then him taking his time and finding the right people to be able to sell it to, whether it was just rock climbers, and it ended up being a huge multi-million-dollar business. So all he did in the main stage was solve a problem. And that was his neck hurting while trying to belay climbers. So, who is Noah Kagan? So he worked at Facebook in the early years and ended up getting fired. I think he said he was employee 23 at Facebook. So very early years. And then he went on to create multiple different businesses that are very successful, like SendFox and AppSumo. I currently use SendFox, and I'm enjoying it. Being able to put into the emails and send out newsletters, which you can sign up for at figuringoutfinance.com, as well as finding me on all the socials. But Kagan was able to create these different businesses and just have multi-million dollar businesses that he's able to run now. So diving into the book a little bit, the main point of the book is to just start. So the magic is now and not how. So being able to get that first idea, being able to get that first dollar, and accepting rejection. So he has a great quote in there on rejection, and it says, "Do the thing you fear, and the death of fear is certain." So this is what a lot of getting started in sales is. It's getting rejected. He tells a story on Brandon Turner's podcast, the Better Life podcast, about his dad just always asking for something. And when he started to sell himself, just the rejection that he would face. And that can be really, really tough for somebody starting out, because you never really, it just sucks to get rejected, whether you're trying to find a spouse or just talk to people in general. But getting rejected is really, really hard. I did door-to-door sales for 2 days, and getting the door slammed in your face or getting cussed out, that's not an easy day. But you're able to build that up, because every no is one more closer step to a yes. And that's how you have to really look at rejection. As many doors as you knock, you're eventually going to get a yes with all these doors that are being closed on you. Or you're going to be able to get creative and figure out the next steps. So one of the little tests that Kagan puts in the book is the 10% off test. He says the next coffee shop you go to, ask for 10% off. it's going to be so uncomfortable to be able to ask for that, because that's not normal. I mean, that would be like going out to dinner or going to a McDonald's and saying, hey, can I get 10% off? It is not easy, and it's going to be so uncomfortable. And if they say no, say, okay, that's no problem. And what that does is build up your ask muscle. So being able to be uncomfortable and ask those questions, that's what's really going to jumpstart your career, because you're going to be able to get started, or you're going to be able to get uncomfortable and still ask those questions. And then starting your business off, once you develop your plan and, trying to figure out a product, figuring out what that is, his next test is asking for $1 from somebody for your business idea, to be able to be a founder, to be able to, just be at that starting level. And all you need is $1. So asking anybody for that business idea and saying, hey, would you be interested in this product? Yeah. And they would say, yes, of course, that's the problem I'm having. That product would really work for me. And then you would ask them, well, would you give me $1 to be able to be on the starting level and start this business? And that's all it is, asking for $1. You're building up the ask muscle to be able to do that and getting uncomfortable. So then Kagan starts to go into his 1-minute business model. So his 1-minute business model is being able to analyze the numbers on a business and see if that's a recurring, money making opportunity for you to be able to do. So you're able to analyze a product in less than 1 minute and be able to see whether that's a profitable business or not. He goes over the 48-hour money challenge to be able to drive customers to your business and see if that's something people would do and if they would pay right now. So on the podcast with Brandon Turner, he has Brandon call up one of his friends, and they were talking about finding babysitters to be able to take their wives on date nights. So he called up one of his friends and had the business idea of creating an app or a community to be able to schedule a date night that no matter what, that babysitter would be there and they would be able to have their date night. And he just kept following Kagan's advice from beginning to end. And it was a little bit uncomfortable just being able to ask whether he was able to try and sell that product. And then it didn't end up working out, but he was able to ask those questions, ask for referrals, and keep going along. And it was a really interesting conversation to be able to listen to, because that's somebody who is really, really good at selling real estate and selling his business and vision to other people, and then asking his friend for money who's already a millionaire just for a couple $100s to be able to start out. It was really uncomfortable for him, and it was fun to listen to. So I definitely recommend you going and checking out Noah Kagan on the Better Life podcast, his episode. Really, really good stuff. So one part of the business model is to be able to sell your product before you have it. So as I talked about in the beginning of the show, is that being able to solve that problem for somebody else, asking them in their selected field, what is one problem that they're having that would be something that they need solved. So going back to the rock climber and the belaying, he said, what is the problem that I'm having right now? Well, it's being able to look up and being able to guide the climber. The sun's going to be in your eyes. Your neck is going to hurt. So what would help you in that way? So mirrors that are going to be able to look up and see for you, so you can look forward. Your neck's not going to hurt and you're not going to have to look into the sun. So he asked a lot of his buddies and and they said, oh yeah, that would be awesome to be able to help belay. So he went out and created the product, and then he drove up business so what he did was he drove up business by asking people if they were interested in that, and then putting a non-refundable deposit to be able to sell to his friends. So whenever he got the product made, he was able to, give them the product because they've already bought it. And then he tried to mass scale it. So he tried some smaller companies in the area, and then he tried on a larger scale. And he made no money for a really long time. And then he had one large order of $30,000 come in, and then it's been a hit from that point on. And then what he did, the group that paid the $30,000 for the glasses, they became returning customers. And then he was able to focus more on those businesses that would buy them at scale rather than just trying to sell one-off at a store. So he was able to do that and build his business. But what he did in the beginning was drive up business, see if other people in this field are having those same problems, and then being able to do it and go build the product. So all of this kind of getting summed up, you have to figure out what your destination is. What are your goals? Are you just looking for a business to be able to go travel? What are your goals? And that's something that no matter what stage of life you're in, I would go write it down right now. And Noah Kagan in the book talks about what is your perfect day. So once you write down that, whether that's sitting on the beach, being able to spend time with your family, you start to give yourself that destination, and then you're able to build that business to be able to get to that destination. So for a kid in college, what is that destination? Right now, you're in school, you're in classes, you're probably just looking forward to Friday at the bar. So getting out of college, it's like, okay, well, am I really interested in a job here? Maybe. If you went to nursing school, you're probably going to end up being a nurse. But I'm talking about people in those business degrees who don't really know what they want to do. In the majors that I'm just going to college to figure it out. So that's where you need to start breaking down your perfect day. What does that look like? And then how do I build something on the side to be able to support that? Because if not, you're probably going to be looking at selling insurance. And that's not fun, because getting out of college, for me especially, it was really, really tough. And I'm still going through that right now with getting let go by the racing team or a racing team, and then being able to go into a sales role at a really small company and be their third employee, and then leaving that company after I didn't see the growth that I didn't think was going to be able to, that I wasn't going to be able to grow with the company. So I left, and now I'm going to be able to start working with real estate and working on flips myself, and kind of starting my own business with the Figuring It Out Finance podcast. But 2 years ago, or 1 year ago, I wrote down what my perfect day would look like. Now I have a destination, and now I know the money I would need to be able to create that perfect day. And now I can build that with real estate. And that's what really led me into the real estate and the cash flow. Okay, how do I have smaller rentals, or a smaller number of rentals that'll be able to support my life? And that's where I fell into the Airbnbs. And I said, well, Airbnbs, weekend stays isn't really my thing. Then the long-term rentals don't produce the cash flow. So now I'm looking at the medium-term rentals, which is really popular in my area, that I could cash flow well over $500 to over $1,000 if I'm working with different insurance companies or travel nurses. So beginning with the destination in mind is able to drive you towards your goals. And then what's going to help get you there? So once you have the product, you're able to start marketing yourself and marketing the product. So social media does a really good job for that. So whether that's YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, all of those social media platforms are great. So which one to pick? Doing all of them is going to be really, really hard, especially if you're trying to do Facebook posts and then you're trying to do YouTube. I would pick one or two that you use the most and just use that. So I don't really use Facebook, so I'm not on there. And then I don't really use YouTube, so I'm not on there. So what I'm using right now is TikTok and then Instagram. So for my personal business, I want to get as many eyes on this as possible. So being able to use the TikTok to be able to drive to the podcast for you to be able to listen and get my mindset on things is the goal with that. And that's what Noah Kagan talks in the book. He's like, hey, how are you using these short-term platforms, those 30-second videos, to be able to drive to your product? And Brian Lubin does the same thing, and I think that's the book I'll review next week because I found that book awesome. And then, so you're using your social media, and then it's a lot of experimenting. What do people want to see? Is there a best time to be able to post? You're going to be able to figure all of that out, but being able to get started and not really care what people think or understand, you understand your business, so you have to do the best thing that you know works to be able to drive that business. And then the last part is to be able to learn to use systems. So like I just said, learn to experiment and keep what works and double down on it. So say Instagram and TikTok are really hitting it off and you've been trying Facebook and it's been pretty stale, then stop using it and really double down on TikTok or Instagram or whatever is the biggest driver to your product or platform. So I'm trying to drive people to my website to be able to sign up for that newsletter because Noah Kagan, like I said, I'm using this book as the guide to building my business. So it'll be interesting to see. So I'm interested to see how it all works out and drives to my website, to my podcast, and then be able to build that newsletter up and help as many people as possible in college and the young adults get started in finances. Because reading and listening to podcasts is how you're going to be able to learn, and not so much in sitting in college. And from firsthand, 2 years out of college, I learned more in 3 books than I ever did in the classroom. So being able to double down on what works and stick with it. And then how do you retain your customers? So once you build up that base and you're starting to produce a little bit, how do you get those customers to keep spending money with you? So that's all I got on the $1 Million Weekend, and I'm sure I might be able to do a more in-depth podcast here in the next couple of months as I keep growing the podcast, as well as the newsletter and social media, and I'll give updates every once in a while because, using these books as blueprints, that's about all I have to go off of because there's nobody in my circle that I'm able to bounce ideas off of or be able to use as a blueprint to be able to build this business. So I've read over 100 books, and the main point is just start. So go check out $1 Million Weekend by Noah Kagan. You can find me, Chris Rickenbaugh, on thefiguringoutfinance.com. Keep listening to the podcast, and we'll see you on the next episode.